Good afternoon, everyone. Strange winds across the planet. Record sea effect snow in northern Japan. Worst dust storm in Uzbekistan's recorded history going back 150 years. Notice the scorpion-tailed dust pattern. We see the same exact thing in Delhi, blamed on smoke and wildfires. Set up for Northern Hemisphere winter. Seems right on track for how low these polar vortices are going to be dipping this year. Near record cold La Nina intensifying through the winter. We'll get that set up. And as jet streams go out of their flow in this 400-year grand solar minimum cycle, primary productivity of crop growing zones, we might want to look where it's moving and changing. Keto has been a hot topic for years now. Myself and thousands of others have personally experienced health benefits of keto. I'm not on the keto diet, quote unquote. I use this amazing keto powder. I mix it in with my coffee in the mornings to start to give me that energy boost. Adapt with Keto.com. Powered form of the most ketogenic MCT oil called C8. It helps give me the benefits of elevated ketones without having to follow the keto diet. I had more energy and just seemed to take on the day, and also my mental focus because I like the nootropics. It adds in that extra layer of concentration. And if you want to begin experiencing these benefits yourself, results that you can see this Black Friday, go to adaptwithketo.com or click on the link in the description box below to get 51% off your order today. And now on with the video. Going to start you right over here. Sea effect snow. We've heard of lake effect snow in the Great Lakes in the U.S. This is sea effect snow, warmer waters. Sea of Japan. Cold front, Arctic. When they collide, same effect. Although this is record snowfall. Take a look at the satellite map, and now let's compare it with the forecast. A little bit different what we're seeing, isn't it? Wind and rain pounding Japan, turning into snow. 30 inches. For this early in the year, unheard of. In Hokkaido Island, Shumarinai, 30 inches of snow. And Nayoro also setting a record. They had sea effect snow in Japan in the same exact regions in 2019. That was the all-time record for later in the season, not November, January. But this one, we're seeing the matchups. The atmosphere is definitely changing over Japan, pushing these sea effect snows in, all-time record, November record. So the snow accumulations, you'll notice it's not only in Japan and Hokkaido Island further north, but look at the areas in Russia experiencing as well record snows. That's really far south in Japan for this time of the year, even in the winter. So it does seem those warmer waters and cooler atmosphere colliding, creating vast changes. Also in the Pacific, cooler waters. Could be a record by the time this is over. The extreme La Nina happening at the moment, weather patterns in the northern hemisphere are going to be amplified this winter. There's an enormous amount of forecasts finally coming out with, quote-unquote, the final forecast. So it's going to look something like this. The polar vortices are going to split down over Europe and over the U.S., North America. But how deep will they go into each continent? Natural gas shortages in Europe, electrical rerouting going on in the States. So the forecasts are out, and they're quite important this year because of how able electrical grids and energy delivery is going to be able to cope with so many people retiring, leaving the workforce, minimal staff, and then shortages and spiking prices. This is going to be a winter to remember. And it seems like it's already set up as such. This was back on November 13th. And you're seeing the exact same pattern that was implied to be moving forward. And guess what? Here we go, November 25th and 26th. More deep lows are on the way. Right in the beginning of December, they're going to sweep across. You can see the next spinning low that's going to head right over into British Columbia. And the West Coast, already reeling from too much rain. Now, speaking of vortices, the Ural Volga region in Russia. That red dot is the epicenter of the worst dust storm in Uzbekistan's history. Well-known oat and barley growing region, as well as a lot of atmospheric disturbance there with sprites, blue jets. So you wonder how that intensifying current outbound might affect regional weather systems. And it does seem that the energized push-button start to this event, taking it to be the worst since 1871. So if we're starting to look at these longer-term patterns, not just a 30-year cycle, 50-year cycle, now we're to the 150-year storms all the time, 500-year storm over in Vancouver, and everywhere you look, it's a multi-century storm, which would be expected if you're going to repeat a multi-century cycle, grand solar minimum. So southern Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan hit by the storm, zero visibility in some areas, but recorded dust levels in Tashkent 30x the normal, 30 times more than the normal, which is definitely newsworthy if you're going to be looking for atmospheric disturbance. The eerie glows in the evening lights driving, you could still see through that. It's like an incredibly dense fog, but you're not going to want to be breathing that. And off the Earth Observatory here from NASA, dust blankets Tashkent. So a wider view here of how the dust is moving through the atmosphere, and what you notice from one day to the next is how it's consolidated and takes on that really distinct funnel effect, which makes it look like the end of a feather, scorpion tail. There's so many names for this. But how was all that looser wind suddenly consolidated where you can see it streaking now because the velocity is forced into this particular flow? What I find interesting in India, all the red dots are fires happening, but then they're trying to say the same thing, the velocity flow, and you can see it clearly going right over Delhi. It's the same atmospheric flow that Uzbekistan experienced. So what is it with all these strange intensification points in the atmosphere? So knowing that, and crops will be lost, and the plant and harvest dates are going to go out of sync, it was already seeing that. What we're going to have to start thinking about is where can crops transition if our current growing latitudes are not going to be able to support that species any longer. So when I was in the Earth Observatory, which I've linked in the description box below, you're probably going to want to go. There's about 30 different maps that you can look at. Well, I chose the net primary productivity, being it's all about respiration in plants, photosynthesis, and where changes might be prevalent. So going back all the way to February of 2000, you notice it's clumped to the west of South America. You see all the way through Colombia, up into Venezuela there, clumping darker green, the productivity off the charts, and also Central Africa and over Indonesia as well. But then fast forward into February of 2016, you can see that there's been a smoothing and Asia's getting wetter and more productive with the vegetation. Now that is a clump of vegetation, as well as Mexico and the whole Central American region. So putting these together, what do you see? The changes are stark. So easy to see them once you put these two together. So if you were looking for new food growing areas to place crops on the planet, knowing that carbon dioxide absorption and photosynthesis are increasing in some places, decreasing in others, that just means we can look to switch crop species into a different area on the planet to grow it. I would choose Central Africa because the way it's moving from Western Central all the way and smoothing itself across the Sahel, and that land is underutilized, and there's an aquifer called the Nubian Aquifer directly under that. If that were tapped, you could take the underground water resources, and the North African monsoon is shifting, so there's going to be more above ground rainfall as well. Because as we enter 2022, it might make a little more sense talking about switching crops because we're not going to grow enough, especially with the inbound fertilizer shortages, rising prices, and more global crop declines. And while you're thinking about your readiness and preparedness, long-term storable foods, it's going to be cheaper right now than it is next year. Plus, it's 25-year shelf life. Give yourself a peace of mind knowing you have storable foods in emergencies so you can wait out the chaos and not have to go out and fight for the limited resources in emergencies. Adapt 2030 in My Patriot Supply, 3-month emergency food supply. It's a great way to support the channel. That link's also in the description box below, along with tonight's images, graphics, stories, so you can do your own research. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.